What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday we had talked about the Microsot Activision acquisition and everything that went into that when it came to the games, the studios, all of this. Well, it does appear that the stock market had a bit of a reaction to the entire thing, with Sony losing quite a bit of value, leaving people to wonder how exactly do they respond to this. We're going to go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about an update for Nintendo Switch Online, which now is leaving many of us to wonder what's next. And we're also going to be talking about an odd delay that's now hit the Nintendo Switch. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all of the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Xbox Game Pass. And we had talked about how that slide had leaked out a bit early on the Xbox website. Well, they did post up the actual release for it, showing off the different dates. And it looks like Death's Door is out today. We can see, once again, the card here. We have some of those release dates. The biggest ones that we're going to go back over includes Death's Door, Cloud Console, and PC, out today. Hitman Trilogy, Cloud Console and PC, also out today. And, of course, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction, Cloud Console and PC, out today. Available day one, of course. And, well, that's had interesting reviews with that. But I would say out of all the games, I know Hitman Trilogy is a very good series of games, but I can't recommend Death's Door enough. It is an awesome game, and the fact that it's dropped in today on Game Pass, which would have been a surprise if, of course, that slide didn't leak out, is certainly an awesome addition, and I completely recommend checking it out. I know Rainbow Six Extraction, maybe it's worth downloading to see, but based on different reviews and people's opinions on it, doesn't really look like the big game that maybe Microsoft was hoping they were going to get here. Also, we had a bit of a surprise release yesterday, and that's Yu-Gi-Oh! You can take a look at this here. This is Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. I saw this pop up on Gamatsu, and I guess they decided to just put this up on the eShop, the Xbox, PlayStation, or PC. Basically, all platforms has this game right now. It's free to play, of course, with microtransactions. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! So if you've been playing the card game, maybe you had heard of this and you were looking forward to it, but free to play digital card game getting a surprise release. They say the definitive edition of the competitive card game that has been evolving for over 20 years, duel at the highest level against duelists from all over the world. And it also appears to have cross progression. And it's been a while since I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! Games. I remember playing them back on the Game Boy Advance. There was also one for the original PlayStation. It was a little weird. You would try to fuse these cards together, and half the time when I was a lot younger, I would just guess and hope that I would get a really good fusion out of them. But I did play around with the physical cards themselves. Certainly didn't get as into that as I did with Magic the Gathering or the Pokemon trading card game, but it's free to play. Might be worth downloading to check out. Oh, and we of course had just talked about the Pokemon Legends Arceus game kind of getting out there early and leaks starting to appear online. Well, now it's just everywhere, and in fact, it appears that the entire Pokedex has just leaked online. All the different Pokemon you can find in Legends Arceus are basically all cataloged already there, and of course, that had some surprises that got some reactions online. Yes, there are new forms for the game. Surprise, surprise there. So if you don't want to be spoiled of these new forms, you're going to have to keep an eye out because, yeah, they're just being posted on Twitter. It was trending yesterday because of this, and I have a feeling the Pokemon Company and Nintendo aren't too happy right now, so I'm sure they're going to go around copyright striking and looking for anyone spreading these leaks. And if you are looking to avoid spoilers, well, you got a little over a week, so good luck. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Microsot Activision deal and its effects on Sony. And this was going to be felt one way or the other because Call of Duty is involved, and it is a massive revenue generator for Sony. A lot of people play Call of Duty every single year on the PlayStation and Warzone. I believe Warzone will stay on PlayStation platforms because that's kind of like the live service situation that I'm sure Phil Spencer is talking about, similar to Elder Scrolls Online, for example. However, going forward, we kind of anticipate right now that Call of Duty games, based on what Microsoft's done with the Bethesda games like Starfield and Elder Scrolls, are going to be Game Pass exclusive, essentially, not on Sony's platform. Well, there was a reaction in the stock market, which you can see here. Microsoft deal wipes $20 billion off Sony's market value in a day. Sony Group Corp shares fell 13% in Tokyo on Wednesday, their biggest drop since October 2008 after PlayStation rival Microsoft announced a $69 billion deal to acquire games publisher Activision Blizzard. I mean, you can see, for example, just a quick look at the stock here, just to give you an idea as to when that announcement was made and the pretty steep drop that took place immediately after that. Yeah, this is probably a knee-jerk reaction to the announcement, and I'm sure Sony stock will recover after they start making big announcements themselves when it comes down to the PlayStation brand, which is big for Sony. But it's hard to understate the effects that having something like Call of Duty taken away from the PlayStation itself would have, because again, it is a massive seller on the PlayStation platform, which you have to remember, Sony collects royalties on all of those sales, all of the microtransactions that go through as well, because the Call of Duty games, yeah, they're full price, but you know there's plenty of microtransactions to get there after the fact, battle passes, all of this different stuff. Sony was collecting quite a bit of money from that, and that's clearly something that Sony is pushing heavily into now with subscription services and live services and all of this. Yes, from third parties mostly right now, but Sony is gearing up for apparently their own Project Spartacus. But it does look like the stock market had another reaction after this. They started to run to different companies that I guess could also be purchased, because either they're anticipating a reaction from Sony or for Microsoft to continue going around and buying after things like EA and Ubisoft, which you can see some here, some of the charts, just started to pump out of nowhere. Again, money flowing out of Sony and then into some of these other third-party large publishers that may end up getting acquired. Microsoft paid a lot of money, yes, for Activision, but even out to shareholders, they paid well above the asking price at the time for Activision shares. And they kind of have to do that to entice shareholders to go along with it. And all of this has brought up the question, how does Sony respond to this massive deal for Microsoft? They really can't necessarily. I mean, if you look at how much money Microsoft spent, it was nearly half of their war chest, which is basically the cash on hand or the money they have in the bank. That's not something that Sony is going to be able to match, like, at all. Like, Microsoft has one of the largest war chests, of course, along with other large trillion-dollar companies like Apple, for example. Sony's not competing with that. The way I think Sony should respond is just with good games. Once they start making those big-time announcements, it won't be as big of a deal, I think, right now, because it's going to be a while before Call of Duty eventually just stops going on a PlayStation platform. I'm anticipating 2024, so we're still years off from that. And who knows, by then we could have some big-time games already out there from Sony, like the next Spider-Man, next God of War, and so on there, Wolverine. So I think right now Sony just needs to focus on big game announcements and, of course, releases throughout 2022. But that's kind of where we are now. It's not necessarily about what are you going to announce in terms of games to match this game. It's more or less, okay, they just acquired a massive publisher. Now, who are you going to acquire? Next up, let's talk about an update for the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack with the Nintendo 64 games. Of course, we're kind of sitting around waiting for Banjo Kazooie to finally make its way to the service after being announced last month. And we kind of figured we were on this monthly release schedule. However, we've kind of fallen off that a little bit already. It's been just over a month. I think it's been a month and a week or so since Banjo-Kazooie was announced to be heading to the service. And since, of course, we had the last Nintendo 64 game added, that being Paper Mario. But we did get the trailer, and I'll admit, it's pretty cool to see a Banjo-Kazooie trailer from Nintendo here in 2022. And at this time, we have a couple of other games that are coming up. That being F-Zero X, Majora's Mask, Mario Golf, Kirby 64, and Pokemon Snap. Those are the 5 games left that were shown in that trailer when they first showed off the expansion pack. Which, of course, now we get to take a guess at what's next. Maybe Majora's Mask, why not there? I mean, really, at this point, who knows what Nintendo is doing with their planned scheduled release. We could not see another one of these for another 2 months. It's very possible. I'd like to think we're on a monthly release schedule, though, for these 64 games. This list that we have left, I believe, would run up in June, so that would have coincided with an E3 presentation, an E3 Nintendo Direct that, well, there's probably not going to be an E3 this year, so maybe Nintendo will just put it in there somewhere, and then they could announce the lineup for games maybe for the second half of this year, starting in July. And of course, I'm sure we'll find out all about how good the emulation is for Banjo Kazooie, whether it's MVG taking a look at it or just the internet in general, comparing screenshots and all of this. And I guess we'll just kind of hang out now and wait around to see when the next game is announced. It's sort of just anytime, out of left field on Twitter at this point. There's really no rhyme or reason, no set schedule. And we're just going to assume that it's monthly now until proven otherwise, and I'm sure it's a strong possibility that Nintendo could go another month or two before we find out about the next Nintendo 64 game, but I guess give me your best guess as to which one of these 5 they're choosing to release next. Next up, let's talk about an odd delay for the Nintendo Switch, and that's Dying Light 2. And this is an odd one because Dying Light 2 was not releasing as a native game on the Switch. It was going to be a cloud version, similar, of course, to what we have right now with Kingdom Hearts, and not great there. Or I guess you compare it to Control or Hitman 3. Well, we have a delay now for this one, and it's throwing me off a little bit because it's not actually on the system, it's a cloud version, but we can see this here from the press release saying in order to provide fans with the gaming experience at the level they deserve and that Techland wants to provide, Dying Light 2 Stay Human cloud version's release date on Nintendo Switch will be moved. Techland is asking Nintendo fans around the world for their patience. Upon the game's release, players will be able to experience Dying Light 2 Stay Human with flexible handheld gameplay at its best with Nintendo Switch powered by cloud technology. Now, the thing that's a real shame here is Dying Light, they ported it to the Switch. Very good port, actually. It plays well, looks pretty good. I mean, again, for the Switch, I'd say it looks very good in handheld mode. If you have the OLED system, definitely. But then they're going to the cloud version, and I know, I'm sure they probably tried to get Dying Light 2 running natively on the Switch, but they are working with aging hardware at this point, and there's a reason you see some developers even talking about, hey, sure, a Switch 2 would be nice right now, but looking at this, I feel like people are going to forget about Dying Light 2 coming out on the Switch at all. It was already kind of a tough sell because it's all through the cloud, and it's like, that kind of defeats the idea of the Switch in the first place, be able to take it with you on the go and not require an internet connection. And then, of course, you look around at the other options releasing that same day for basically the same price on the other platforms, and it's like, why wouldn't I just get those? If, of course, you have the option to do so. And unfortunately, no word on when this is coming out. Could be months, could be next year, for all we know right now. It's slated to release February 2nd on all other platforms, so I guess here's hoping it's not too far out, but it is the cloud version. And to be honest, after trying some of these out, like Kingdom Hearts most recently, I'm just kind of passing on them as it is, especially if you have other systems to play it on. In our last bit of news, let's talk about a strange excerpt from that Wall Street Journal report around how this entire Microsoft and Activision acquisition came to be, which included Bobby Kotick apparently going to Meta to see if they wanted to buy Activision. I guess that didn't work out, so they came to terms with Microsoft, and here we are now after that announcement. Well, there was one part that was really funny because it had to do with Activision's public image. Look, the PR around Activision was a nightmare with everything that was going on with the lawsuit in the state of California and all of that. But it looks like Bobby Kotick had an idea on how to fix that. Take a look at this. This from the Wall Street Journal saying Mr. Kotick has been eager to change the public narrative about the company and in recent weeks has suggested Activision Blizzard make some kind of acquisition, including of gaming trade publications like Kotaku and PC Gamer, according to people familiar with him. Now, I will say it's possible that they were just hanging out in a boardroom and he was like, how can we stop them from doing this? Oh, let's just buy him. You know, as a joke. It's also very possible that he really considered this. That'd be such a strange look, wouldn't it? It's like Kotaku, PC Gamer, and other outlets were spending quite a bit of time following the entire saga of Activision and all the misconduct and allegation stuff coming out from it. And all of a sudden, Activision just owns Kotaku. And you know what? I wouldn't put it past Bobby Kotick to spend millions of dollars to make a problem like that go away just by sheer force and buying power. But Wow, what a strange thing to, I guess, stand up in a boardroom and suggest. I don't like what they're saying in the media, so let's buy them. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a little poll I posted up yesterday, where I asked, which of these Activision franchises would you like to see Microsoft greenlight a new game for? These results were a little surprising, but Spyro was number one, and that kind of makes sense to me because we had Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, and I'm sure a lot of people were hoping for a big new Spyro game next, and there we go. Spyro was number one there. But number two was Guitar Hero, and I kind of thought the rhythm games that had like the accessories like guitars and drums and all that, the music games, had their day, but maybe people are really hoping to see something like a brand new big Guitar Hero game with all of the different instruments and stuff. And then for the most part, it was a tie between Crash Bandicoot, Tony Hawk, and Prototype. But there we have it. Of all the different franchises that I list here from Activision, people would really like to see a new Spyro game, and why not? Microsoft's looking for variety for Game Pass. They might do a game for all of these different ones at this rate. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Jay saying, I think part of Microsoft's strategy is to have such a huge lineup of studios pumping games into Game Pass to make it so the service is irresistible for gamers to have. I almost feel like Microsoft wants to get to a point where they just have one big game releasing every month or almost every other month. I mean, seriously, the number of studios they have right now is overwhelming, and these studios, some of them can work on multiple projects at the same time, 2 or 3 games. You might get to a position where Microsoft can release 10 larger games a year, which is like mind-blowing to think about. And who knows, maybe they really will go out and do some more buying. Maybe they take Crystal Dynamics away from Square and merge that into the Initiative, and all of a sudden that's a big studio that can develop multiple games at once. A lot of stuff here, but I do also believe it is working towards Game Pass eventually going up in price. Game Pass Ultimate maybe goes to something like $17, $18, maybe even $20 a month if they do push their release schedule up that much. I mean, think about it. If it's $20 a month, but there are like legitimately games dropping left and right, people will probably find value in that overall rather than have to buy several games a year anyway. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. It really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Where's Banjo, Kazooie heading to Nintendo Switch Online? Would this be your first time playing it? Let me know about that. And then how does Sony respond? I mean, their stock took quite a hit. Yeah, probably a knee-jerk reaction from the stock market in general, but what do they do right now? Do they look for an acquisition, or do they start showing off more games? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.